Good evening.
Good evening.
Welcome to the March 12th, 2018 Board of Education. Could we have a roll call, please?
Fong.
Here.
Laude.
Here.
Livingston.
Here.
Mansell.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Parsons.
Here.
Savage Williams.
Here. Thank you. The first item on the agenda is written communication. Is there any written communication, Dr. Davis?
We have no written communication at this time.
All right. The next item on the agenda is the report on MSAN. Dr. Witherspoon.
Yes, and I'm probably going to chime in, but first of all, Dr. Davis and Dr. Campbell have a presentation. It'll explain itself, but in a nutshell, and you'll hear this again in a minute. The Minority Student Achievement Network, MSAN, that we've been a part of since its founding, one of the things that it has been doing now for the past several years is having these like little mini retreats in which one of the member school districts hosts, and people come to study what they've been doing and to see firsthand the equity work and the work regarding racial disparities in achievement. So I think they'll probably say the whole same thing again, but the nice thing is we have a report because we just hosted last week. It's hot off the presses, and we really have something we'd like to share with you about that.
Thanks, Dr. Witherspoon. Just some background. MSAN, as it's known, or the Minority Student Achievement Network, is a national coalition of multiracial school districts that have come together to understand and eliminate opportunity gaps and achievement gaps that persist in their schools. The student populations for those districts are between 3,000 and 33,000 and are most often located in well-established first-ring suburbs of smaller mid-sized cities and originally included access to Tier 1 universities. Since 1999, and this is great because ETHS was one of the founding districts, and in fact, ETHS housed the Minority Student Achievement Network for several years before it found a permanent home at University of Madison, Wisconsin. So their mission is to understand and change the school practices and structures that keep racial opportunity and achievement gaps in place. They work collaboratively, conduct published research, analyze policies, and share promising practice. So each year, MSAN selects a host site, and we were selected as a host site. That meant that we host a 3-day visit for superintendents and what is called the Research Practitioner Council, which is made up of assistant superintendents, building principals from across the country. So there are three purposes associated with a site visit. They want to learn about a district's equity initiatives from different perspectives, gain an in-depth view of district building, classroom level practices that speak directly to the mission, and gain a real-time view of complex contexts within which equity initiatives are situated. They build relationships among leaders. There's time to network and collaborate. We had a series of dinners. At one of the dinners, we hosted a panel discussion. At another, we had some research findings from Northwestern. And we also gain new knowledge as members of MSAN and resources to accelerate current equity work in individual districts. Our visit was March 5th through the 7th. We had 53 participants. 18 school districts were represented from 8 states. We had folks from Massachusetts, from Brookline. We also had folks from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, as well as Cleveland, Shaker Heights, Cleveland Heights, and from other districts around the country. And going west, I believe we had districts from Arizona as well.
Phoenix, Arizona area.
So we kicked off with a panel discussion. We had a dinner in the terrace and a panel discussion around equity leadership. Dr. Witherspoon, Dr. Gorn, Dr. Campbell, Dr. Carrie Levy, and I moderated that panel. That was a great opportunity to share our work, tell stories. One of the things we did to intro that panel was we watched the video, the documentary, The Emerson Street Y, about the Emerson Street Y. and that really provided the context for the entire visit. We ran concurrent sessions the next day on the Marcus Campbell. Dr. Campbell ran a one on school-wide focus on black males. Dr. Keith Robinson ran a session on our dress code policy. I worked with Tina Lula and Dale Liebforth on detracking and AP pathways. And Toya Campbell and Marcus Campbell did a session on human resources and equity. The highlight of the conference, and I'm not just saying that as a proud ETHS person, but this was based on feedback from participants. We had a SOAR panel. We had Students Organized Against Racism did a panel. Panel lasted a period and a half. They spoke eloquently about equity work, deeply, passionately. And the amazing thing was this was not a panel of seniors. This was a panel of freshmen through seniors. And it was just phenomenal. It was a real highlight. In fact, you couldn't see, now these are very busy administrators, and normally if you present to a group of administrators, they'll have their laptops up or their phones out because everything is an emergency. There was not a phone out or a laptop up. Everyone in the room was leaning in and listening to our students. And they actually earned a standing ovation at the end of their discussion. Later that evening, we continued to feature students. We worked with Dr. Alejandro Carrion, our own Margaret Viscara, and a group of NU and ETHS students. They presented on what's called Youth Participatory Action Research, or YPAR. It's a research methodology that Northwestern folks and ETHS students and NU students get together. They learn a research protocol. They learn to research their own environment. In this case, their work was designed to inform topics at the Latinx Summit. And they didn't really dive into those topics, but it was more about the process of research and student-centered research and student voice. Again, a very well-received panel, plenty of accolades for that work. So we do a brief survey of participants. You know, what did you appreciate? And here's a word kind of map of, this was given to me by MSAN. They appreciated the students, Evanston, hearing about the work. It's a very nice graphic. If you dig into the details, they like the practical exemplars and real life examples. Another participant said gaining a deeper understanding of the context of our MSAN partner schools, reconnecting, hearing new ideas and approaches to systems-wide change. Love this one. I appreciated the tour of the school, the direct emphasis on detracking at Evanston, and the time to talk with the panels. Excellent. Hearing the district's leaders' stories of what it took to advance the equity work, hearing from students in varied sessions, and finally, the students writ large. This is the red and the purple. The red are essentially the superintendents. The purple are the research practitioner councils. The question is learning about ETHS's equity initiatives from different perspectives. Everyone either agreed or strongly agreed that that was the case, 100%. I left with 3 to 5 takeaways. Remember, MSAN is big on takeaways. What can you take that you can bring back to your district and utilize? And again, you'll see the red is the superintendents, and the purple are the research practitioner folks. Those would be the assistant superintendents, building principals. Again, 100% of folks who attended agreed or strongly agreed that they could actually take away 3 to 5 things and bring them back to their district. And with that, Marcus and I are ready to answer any questions you may have, and I'm sure Dr. Witherspoon's going to want to jump in.
All right, Gretchen.
Thanks for that. It's been a while, I think, since we've heard anything about MSAN, so I appreciate getting an update. And I'm going to ask the question that I think I asked years ago, probably when I first heard about MSAN. And that is there a role for school board members within this MSAN framework? It used to be, and Mark and I have been the longstanding members here, so 9 years ago when I started, I know that occasionally a school board member would attend the conference, which I know is coming up in Madison. And I'm not necessarily making a plug for my attendance there, but I'm just wondering, part of doing this work is policy level stuff. And in fact, a couple of things referred to here and in the materials in the packet related to policy work that this board has been involved with and also led the way on. So I'm just wondering, is there ever a time when board members from the MSAN districts can come together to discuss this? And as an interesting footnote, I was really sort of amazed to notice that my school district growing up is now a member of MSAN, which I'm just going to say, when I attended the Birmingham Public Schools in Birmingham, Michigan, suburban Detroit, we were an exclusively white district. I do not recall a single student of color, maybe one, growing up. So when I saw my district listed here, I was very pleased and also frankly surprised. That was just interesting.
That's a really good observation, though.
Yeah,
And I think it's a little bit about, so often, the school districts tend to be first-ring districts or so, and have probably become more diverse over the years than maybe some of the, like in this area, maybe the further west you go, the less diversity you might find. But anyway, yeah, that's a good observation.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to take back your question to the next MSAN meeting, or maybe I'll even shoot an email. So the response is, in recent years, there hasn't been a lot of emphasis on including activities that would have school writers. This one, with all these districts and all these states, there was actually one school board member from North Carolina who did come with her district, which we thought was great. But again, it was kind of a decision within that district. But you've really given me a good reminder. This would be a good chance for this network to start doing more work.
And I'm happy
involving school board members in that level of leadership.
Yeah, I'm happy to take the lead there. I mean, and maybe it takes a school board member to take the initiative and you know, I mean, if nothing else, there should be some way to communicate with our fellow school board members, and I'm sure members of this board have communicated at our various Illinois Association of School Board events or EdRed events or whatever it is. The networking is always valuable and important. And it just seems like a missed opportunity for school board members to communicate with one another about, you know, the exciting work we're doing and get some ideas from one another. And, you know, again, maybe school board members actually need to take the lead on it.
Yep. I know it was a question, but it was a great suggestion. So thank you.
Other comments? So I have to say that I was excited to hear this as well. MSAN has been around, and have we ever had a report here at school board meetings?
Oh, for sure.
Sure.
MSAN?
Yeah.
We did last year? Okay.
No, it's been a long while.
It's been a while.
Have a report from students?
That
at
was
one?
it.
Maybe that was it.
In most recent years, we've had students report,
Okay.
because they go to a student,
Right.
it's called Summit, whatever it's called.
Right.
It's the student conference of the MSAN
Yeah,
network.
and our students every year come back very
Right.
enthused
I remember
about that
that.
experience.
Yes, yes. Very exciting. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and now I just got to brag while
Okay,
they're
brag.
getting up. So we had several of our folks involved in presentations and that. And I have to tell you, and these two gentlemen are two of them, I was so proud. Everybody from our district who presented, it hit it out of the park. It was just, you know, genuine and conversant and informed and had something to share. And I was attending them all.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm just beaming. So I did want to share that because the pride I felt, I want you to know you can feel that kind of pride, that we have a staff and students, oh my goodness, who just represent ETHS beautifully.
Well, I too would have loved to have been here, but I know I can't do everything, so I'm thinking, that would have been great. There are a couple of really good school board opportunities to do some collaborating around this equity work that we do. One was the National Summit, when they had the two-day summit, two-day session just for school board members. And April 28th, I believe, is the date. It's a Saturday, all-day Saturday, that the Illinois School Board Association is having a day on equity. So I would make sure that everybody gets that on their calendar and just take this opportunity to give that plug. So, yes, I think whenever we can connect together in our roles as school board members, I really think that we should take advantage of that. So. All right, so let's move on. We have an update on the public day school.
And we have Mary Rodino and Dr. Lene Walls who are coming up. And Mary, of course, is our Chief Financial Officer and has been instrumental in the budgeting for, as well as the acquiring a lease on a facility space. And what she didn't know she was in for when we started out, and a marathon of getting the zoning and special use permits approved. But as you'll hear tonight, that did happen. Dr. Walls is our Director of Special Education. We have been trying for years. I set my personal sights on having our own public day school and getting our own students back in our community, and that years ago. And we went out and found a director who could get the job done. And in all honesty, Lene hit the ground running. She's managed to get the job done on a lot of things, but this was one of them that she understood was a high priority, and it's a priority of hers as well. And this dynamic duo is here to present tonight something very, very exciting that we are now on the threshold of implementing at ETHS. So I'll turn it over to you two.
Thank you, Dr. Witherspoon. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
There is a memo in your packet, and so Mary and I did try to really accentuate the highlights of it, so I'll read a portion of it. So since at least the 2010-11 school year, the number of ETHS students at separate educational facilities has been twice the average of all Illinois high school districts, in excess up to 5 times the state target. While these trends may be attributed to many factors, including institutional policies and practices, the absence of a viable district option for students with specialized needs may perpetuate the issue.
So before we go into more details, I just want to remind you all, I think you've heard me complain a little bit about the process over the last 9 months, and I will tell you it reminded me of why I'm very happy to work here and very happy that I don't get involved in the city zoning type issue meetings. It's been a reminder and a not so pleasant process, but we persevered. We had some difficult meetings, and as you know, over the last few years, we've had an informal committee of a few of us who were working to find a suitable space. It started when Bill Stafford was here, and we looked at a couple other spaces, one of which turned out to be too big over on Church Street, the old Shore School, and now that we see the plans that are developing, I'm kind of happy that didn't work out, because I feel like all of Evanston will benefit from that park splash pad area that the city's planning to build. So I think that worked out. So the committee included Lene, myself, and Jose Guerrero, the Director of Capital Improvements. We also had other administrators come in as we looked at the site over on Hartree. Marcus, Eric, we all saw it. So since September of 2017, when we found out what this process would actually entail, we have been to 9 city meetings, 1 ward meeting, and we also hosted a coffee for the residents who were on the city's notification list of residents within 500 feet of the entire building. In addition, like I said, we hosted the 1 coffee, and the final special use approval was obtained at the last meeting. When I left, I went to join Lene, and so that was when the final approval was obtained at the city council meeting. So just wanted to kind of give you the run-through of how we got here.
So the public day school will embody the mission of District 202, embracing its diversity ETHS is committed to educating all of its students to their maximum potential. It is designed to improve students' academic, social-emotional, and post-secondary success. The school will respond to unique learning needs with specialized and direct instruction and individualized services and interventions. The public day school will provide a structured and supported educational environment for Evanston students in the Evanston community. Currently, we have students going to school in Arlington Heights, Des Plaines, Niles. They travel, some of them, up to 1 hour one way in order to get to school. And that precludes them from participating in the richness of AM support, after school activities, because they're spending time in transport. Right? The proposed day school location enhances opportunities for students to remain connected to their ETHS grade level team of caring adults. Just minutes away from the ETHS main campus, students at the public day school will be considered for participation in courses, sports, and extracurricular activities at the main campus on an individual basis. So, what's next?
So can you hand me that? Maybe you can talk a little bit about the space while we look at some of the renderings. Just quickly, you all know that at the last meeting, you also approved the construction contract, which was contingent on the city approval, which was going on simultaneously. So we had proactively solicited for bids based on that approval, and we're happy with the results of the bid. And so now we have to work through the construction permit process. You know, a lot of these processes are new for us because in the past when we've worked in this building, up until a few years ago, there really was no involvement whatsoever on behalf of the city and their zoning department. And you all might remember the Crystal Lake bleachers case where they built bleachers basically, you know, they seemed 100 feet tall in someone's backyard. And so now the state of Illinois does require, even if it were on our site, for the city to be somewhat involved. But since this is off-site, that's even more the case. So we're in the process of applying for the construction permits. We are anticipating that that will go well. We're working with our architects and also the construction company. So we just have a couple of renderings for you, and I can't remember if we brought these to you a while ago. To be honest, we've been to so many things I can't remember. But the first slide that's up is includes 3 general renderings, and the 2 on the left are the same space, which is a multi-purpose room. So I'll highlight it on both of the slides. I'm on the side one right now, and then in the front, I don't know where my red pointer is, but it's the 2 small slides on the left. So that's a multi-purpose space, and then the rendering on the right is more of a classroom space, and so I don't know if Lene wants to talk about what would take place in those spaces, and then we'll show you the next slide, which is kind of an overall print of how the space will be laid out.
So the multi-purpose space will generally support PE and a cafeteria, and then whatever other needs we might have, that space to function. And the other one is a classroom. We are going to keep our class sizes small. Most of our therapeutic day schools that we currently partner with, by law, are required to offer a 1-to-5 student-teacher ratio. So if a classroom gets a 6th student, they need to add an additional adult. And so we're hopeful that our class sizes won't exceed 10, and we can follow that model that our therapeutic day schools follow.
I can't do it automatically because it's not a PowerPoint.
This next one is the floor plan. And so I think the architects may have given me 6 different iterations of this, but this is the one that I finally thought was the best, because I really wanted to create and design an open floor plan for the kids. So the dark blue areas are all classroom spaces, and then the dark orange spaces are all office areas. So I wanted to make sure that we had an adult presence every place in the building. The way the building is currently laid out, there are cuts in it, and so having this open floor plan eliminates any cuts. There's no opportunity for any child to ever be out of the line of sight of an adult in this space. The other orange spaces highlighted are support staff. The multipurpose room is one of them. One is storage, and then there's a conference room that's currently existing in the space that we're going to leave intact. The front entrance area that Mary is highlighting
on the side.
will be set very similar to our current entrance at the main building at door 2. So the students will come in that open space will be where their lockers are. Safety staff will be positioned there. They'll get all their materials and supplies that they need for the morning prior to the lunch period, and then they'll have a second entrance that clerical staff will need to grant them access to once they're ready to enter the school space.
And the only other space that we didn't mention in the middle of the square, if you will, these are all ADA compliant, accessible washroom facilities, as required by law and as, of course, recommended and needed by the students who might attend there, so. It's just, sorry, William, it's not a PowerPoint, it's not cooperating. Thank you, though. We don't really need to show that slide, just so you all know, this was the slide that we presented at all of the city meetings that really talked about the reason for why this facility made sense, the fact that the students were being bused outside of Evanston, the money was going outside of Evanston. And then there's just one more, William, if you want to go down a little bit, thank you. That's just for those of you who might not be familiar with the site. Those are just some different renderings looking north, south, and into the building. It does have 2 separate entrances. As Lene said, one will be the main entrance. There will be some required asphalt work and curb work and a bike rack and some things that the City Design and Process Review Committee requested. The landlord, and there will be a complete renovation of the exterior so that it becomes ADA compliant. Some of the shrubbery that you see will be removed because it gets in the way. And that will be undertaken by the landlord as soon as we're done remodeling the space to suit our needs inside. So
at a time deemed appropriate by Dr. Witherspoon, we will make a formal announcement, both internally and externally, about the Public Day School. We'll need to give special notification to our partner serving schools, as well as to our families and our students who are currently attending our partner serving schools if they have been identified for transition to the Public Day School. But in addition to the students who are currently being served outside of Evanston, the Public Day School will also be the next step for students who are currently in our building but who require additional supports. So they wouldn't necessarily need to leave the community to go to another school outside of Evanston when they can leave our building, get the support, social, emotional, and environmental supports that they need at our own Public Day School. I am project managing an action plan and a committee, and on that committee is me, Mary, and Toya Campbell, Chief HR, and we meet periodically to go through all the logistics of this project, including budget, staffing, operations, technology, furniture, everything that's going to be required to make our school full service and functional to meet the needs of our students.
Thank you. I was just studying this, the slide just before that.
the one with the fact sheet?
Yeah, the one that you said you've been taking with you.
Carrying it around on our.
Yeah, that's really a good slide. It just has such great information, and I can see some really good, clear numbers here. So Dr. Walls, you said that you're in the process of identifying students that might come back or that you will want to bring back from some of these outside placements, correct?
So not at this time, but that will be the
That will be
process
done, okay.
once we get to that point.
So what will happen Well, maybe it's too early to ask this question. You know where I'm going. What'll happen if they don't want to come back? But I'll ask you that later.
Okay.
We're gonna make it
probably a little
so
premature.
beautiful and competitive. We're gonna have a waiting list.
You know, what I will
may,
say,
actually.
Pat, even though, you know, you can ask later, is that most families want their children in Evanston.
Sure,
They want a viable option
Sure.
in the community.
sure.
So, once we get to that point, I really don't think it's going to be that hard of a sell, because they do want their students reaping the benefits of the services and the amenities that so many of our other students have access to.
I believe you. Yeah, that's good. Okay, I've got some other thoughts, but questions, but I am going to hold them because I want this to evolve, and it sounds like you are doing that and giving a lot of thought about how this is going to happen and how this transition is going to occur. So, other questions, Jonathan?
And I know you love to talk about furniture and masonry and zoning, but I like the focus on the students. And my question is, and I'm, from my own understanding, and I think for the public's understanding, is to what extent you've identified a target category of students for the school. In other words, we send students out of the district for a variety of different reasons. And so it's not as if they're all placed for the same reasons or to address the same condition or disability. And I'm wondering, is there a target group for this new facility that is based on any particular disability or social emotional condition, or, you see what I'm saying?
Yes, and the answer is yes, because overwhelmingly, our students who are served at off-campus serving schools are students with emotional disabilities. So that's up around 60% of our students who are in off-campus schools, followed by about 25% of our students with severe disabilities, and those students are mostly served at Park School.
So the focus would be on students with emotional disabilities.
Not exclusively,
Not
but
exclu- so-
primarily.
And they might also have physical disabilities, but that wouldn't be the reason for them being at this school, the reason for being this school. In other words, how diverse in terms of need a group of students do you envision working with at this school?
It depends on the student profile, right? Because we do have students with physical impairments who might need the environmental and social emotional supports that a public day school can offer.
So for example, would an autistic student be appropriate for this school?
It depends. It depends on the decision of the IEP team and how the disability is manifesting. But no disability category will be excluded, and each decision will be an individualized decision through the student's IEP team.
Well, the only reason I ask that is that because in terms of staffing and training of the staff, obviously the greater variety of needs you're meeting in that building, the greater variety of skills you're going to have among the staff, right?
Not necessarily, because as an LBS-1, a special educator with a professional education license, the training is for all 13 disability categories. So there might be staff who may have more experience working with specific populations, but all the staff will be required to have the special education license, and that covers all eligibilities.
Other questions? Mark? Monique?
Just some quick nuts and bolts things. How long is the lease for?
10 years.
10 years?
If you recall, a meeting or two ago, we sort of changed those dates because the landlord had sort of put the lease aside until we received our approval. And so we wanted to capture 10 full school years, and so we just changed the dates of the lease. We hadn't paid any rent or
Do we have an
anything.
option to renew or anything?
Yeah, I believe there is an option. I mean, clearly the landlord's not looking to kick us out after 10 years, but yeah, I believe there are options. It's been a little while since I looked at the
Yeah,
details,
I'm
but
just
yes,
saying, I mean, we're making a substantial
Yes, we
capital
are.
investment, you know.
we definitely are, and I believe that, yes, there are options. I can double check that and get you the specifics information. And we did have our legal counsel review the lease way back in June when we first looked at this.
Okay, and then also, just, I know it's on your slide, and I know we've talked about it, but in case anybody is watching out there, I know there's always sensitivity in the community about taking tax-paying properties off the tax rolls, and of course, ETHS doesn't pay property tax. How is that being handled in this lease?
So the property tax provision is written into the lease. We will be paying the proportionate portion of the property taxes on the building within our lease cost. And there is actually a clause written in, should the property taxes increase, that escalator would apply to us as well. And it is a little different. If we had gone out and bought a building, that would have come off the tax rolls.
Right.
And so that subject came up several times at city meetings, and we made sure to stress that as a taxing body, we were
Right, which
looking
is-
to take something off the
Right,
tax
and
rolls.
that's just why I wanted to highlight it
Yes,
tonight as well.
thank
It's an
you.
important issue. And lastly, this idea that Pat began to touch on that we don't know the answer to about the number of students that, our students that are gonna land there. If for any reason there is excess capacity, do we have an opportunity to market that capacity to neighboring districts and bring revenue back into the district?
That's very possible, as an opportunity, yes.
There's nothing that would prevent it.
If that is a realistic outcome, you know, not far-fetched, I would urge us to have some sort of marketing plan at the ready, you know, so that we can take advantage of an opportunity like that if it were to present itself. Seems to me, I don't know, I haven't thought all the way through this. Maybe there's reasons why we don't want to bring other kids in here, but it seems if we have the capacity, and why not?
A natural partner would be District 65, because they face very similar statistics with their students who are served off campus. So there might be opportunity to open a junior high class, possibly, at the public day, to allow them, the students, to get a jump start on transition, similar to how CPS has
That is the neighboring district that I had in mind. Thank you.
Yeah, how CPS has the 7th, 8th grade programs in some of their high schools. I envision that as being
Exactly
real
the neighboring
opportunity.
district.
Yes.
But you know, there's also, if you think about the partnership on Park School between the
Right.
two districts, there's also an initiative that we talk about every time we meet about marketing to other
Right.
outside school districts. And that certainly has, I mean, it's been hard enough just to try and get this done to serve our students, and that's always been our focus.
Of course.
But those sorts of things are always in the back of our minds.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, now that we're through a lot of that heavy lifting, now that if those opportunities look like they're gonna
Sure.
be there, you know, speak.
The school could, capacity-wise, with all the actual measurements and classroom sizes, could hold up to 40 students. We certainly aren't, you know, I'm not the programmatic person, clearly, but we're not looking to start with that. But just brick and mortar, it would require additional staffing from what the initial staffing would be, but it could accommodate up to 40 students.
Thank you.
Monique?
So I got an opportunity to attend the board meeting with you both, and you did an awesome job with that crowd. I think I just want to remind us to make sure that we continue to reach out to the community every step of the way. And I know beforehand, you know, it was sort of out of our control. It was led more so by the city, but since we are going into the community, further into the community, or extending our reach into the community, I just want to remind us that it's our responsibility, I believe, to engage our community and let them know as much as we can about the process and what we're doing, and you know, whatever the marketing plan is, it should include the homeowners within that surround that space. So just not to lose sight of that, because I know there were some concerns, right, and we heard them here. And I know that they fell sort of out of the loop with a lot of decisions that were made. So here's our opportunity, you know, to do that and to engage them on a different level, so.
I definitely envision community open houses. I'm sure Lene has too, but, you know, and I do want to just say to that, that we also did have that community coffee and invited 117 people and 6 people came. So, but certainly there are multiple levels of community engagement, and I'd rather have the community as a partner than not have them as a partner.
Exactly, and I'd rather have it than.
Yep.
Right. And we're at the phase in the project where we control it,
Right,
so
Exactly.
that will make a difference as well.
exactly.
Yeah, that's true. That's good.
I have a question, Pat.
Yes, Jude.
Do we have any existing partnership commitments with the schools that we're outsourcing to, the schools that are serving our students out of district, that we would have to transition out of? Any commitments that we have?
No, every
Formal
year
partnerships.
we enter contract
Okay.
with them,
Yearly.
yeah, per state law.
Awesome.
Pat.
Well, first I want to thank you. This has been a tremendous amount of work for both of you and others, so thank you. And while I don't disagree with Mark's point about marketing and District 65, just looking at your numbers, if 60% of our students being placed out of the building have emotional disabilities, it seems like we have an adequate market from within. And I just think it's a wonderful and important thing to keep the kids here. And I'm thrilled that we're doing this. And so to the extent we can do that with as many of our ETHS students as possible, because it really does have an impact when they can't participate in sports and activities. It's another level of feeling other. And I think that's particularly important for these children. So thank you. This is terrific.
Thank you.
I think in closing, I'll just kind of repeat or highlight our schedule. So we're actually looking to fully open to the first group of students that we think will be in the range of 22 or so students in the fall of 2019. You might ask, what are we doing between now and then? Well, first of all, we have the build-out, and that'll take, you know, spring and summer and into the fall. Then we need to get it all equipped, and we need our technology people to go in and all of that. So by sometime in the fall, late fall, it should start looking like the school. At the same time, our HR department and Lene will start working on staffing, because we want to make sure that we get the right people there, and there'll probably be some internal transfers or reassignments, maybe some outside hires, depending on how it goes. But regardless, we need to do that. But then come next spring is when all the IEP conferences are going on and families are thinking about what's the best placement for their child. We'll actually have a facility, a staff taking place. We can actually show them a reality of what this really looks like and is going to be. And then if we think we can do it, we may do what I'll call a soft start that summer, a year from this summer, with the anticipation that the full start would be in the fall. So we do have in the back of our minds that there may be some summer placement and some summer programming that we can do a year from this summer. But I did want to point out that, you know, there are some things that need to be done. It's all very doable, but the nice thing is we have time to do it in a systematic way, and the families will have a much better idea about what that placement's going to look like and offer to their children. So, thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you for that. All right. All right. So we have item number 7, textbook adoption and deletion proposals. Dr. Bavis.
Okay, I'm going to walk through a very brief presentation on the textbooks and then answer any questions. So the textbook process, we establish priorities and budget, identify need by department and across departments. We take on teacher recommendations for titles. Our department chairs endorse those titles. We then go to curriculum forum where we get input, and then I bring it forward to the board, and there's board action. Here's a rapid chart, which just basically breaks that whole process down in a nice chart. You see who recommends, agrees, performs, the input pieces are, and then again, just reminding folks that the Board of Education has the final decision. I use this chart every year just to outline the process. What we look at in the forms, we look at copyright date. In fact, that's why you're going to see, if you look at copyright date, 70% of our cost this year is for science adoptions. We need 3 large textbook purchases for science because those texts are out of date. We look at costs. We knew this cost was coming. We had budgeted for this previously, so it wasn't a surprise. What wouldn't have worked is if we needed new U.S. history books opposite the science books. That's why we space these things out. And finally, our teachers assess the materials. Our IIT department looks at the materials and the online resources. Science adoptions account for 70% of the $186,000 that we're spending. That means that what we're looking at is $130,000 worth of science texts. A brief thank you to our teachers, department chairs, Adrian Rosen in the book room, the entire textbook distribution center, my secretary Liz Johnson, curriculum forum members, and Mary Rodino for coming up with the money. Thanks, Mary.
Minor detail.
Open for questions. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Gretchen?
Thanks, Pete. It's always interesting to see what, not so much on the science side, but what English books you're going to be reading. I always like to see those.
Me too.
As an English major. I just wanted to comment that I like the way, quite a few years ago, I think you changed the form in the section titled Process of Selection. You have a series of questions that you ask the recommenders, which have really improved, I think, on the prior process. I just want to note, as I scrolled through, I think those questions are good questions. They get answered with varying degrees of, I would say, success. And I really don't want to pick on anybody or any department or any particular book in my remarks tonight. But I will just point out that, for example, the question relating to how does the text help to support our race and equity goals at ETHS? That's an outstanding question. I mean, we just had an MSAN presentation on equity, right? I mean, this is central to what we're supposed to be doing here. We talk about it at every single board meeting. It infuses every single goal. So it's a critical question on this form. However, some of the answers some are really good. In 1 or 2 sentences, it really encapsulates, I think, some sense of how that selection relates to our equity goals. On the other hand, a response that says the class is diverse, or there are diverse students in the class, is most definitely not really responsive to that question. So I just, I think maybe now that we've improved the questions, we can take that next important step and improve on how we are thinking about responding to those questions. Because if we can't answer the question on this form, it makes me wonder then how that text is going to be used in the classroom. And that's not my, that's not my thing. But I do approve the textbooks. And so I pay attention to these questions. And, as I said, I think there are some really good examples, and maybe, maybe it's a matter of doing a little workshop with folks at the beginning and highlighting what might be a responsive question or
You know, I
or
think that's.
or less responsive.
I think that's a great idea. I also have convened the curriculum forum group to actually look at all of the questions that we're asking. They have suggested already some questions that clearly relate to content, that elevate content more than we have in the past, and say directly, how does this text inform the content of the course?
You know, I mean, for example, one that jumped out at me as being a better and maybe more responsive, and again, not trying to pick on anybody in particular, but this just at least in literally two sentences, at least took a crack at it by saying this text provides voice and visibility to a culture and demographic that have not been visible. The Indian author brings to life struggle of both gender and race, as well as assimilation and acculturation that is currently faced in modern times. Boom, two sentences.
Exactly.
And that makes sense to me. I can understand it, and it suggests to me that there's something about that book that will then get translated in the classroom.
I really think you're on to something in terms of us using that as an exemplar and putting that out there as, you know, here's the kind of responses we're looking for.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Other comments? Okay, well, thank you very much. Great book list here. Right, let's see, where are we? So we're at comments from the public. Dr. Davis.
We have one comment from the public. We have Erica Alfaro. And just a reminder, it's a 3-minute time limit. What I do is I'll let you know when you have a minute left. I'll just I'll put my finger up and I'll maybe whisper into the mic 1 minute. And then when time runs out, the phone will go off. I'll fumble with it a little bit. You'll finish your thought and that'll be that. Public comment is also done from the podium. Yep.
Encuentra tu grito, find your voice. That was the theme of the Latinx Summit this year. Hi, I'm Erica Alfaro, a senior here. So I'm here on behalf of the Latinx Summit Board and on behalf of the class of 2018 and the Latinx community, the body of the students. So, I'm gonna quote one of our people. So what should we do to address the school prioritizing one white woman over our Latinx community? Orion Waldorf. It was rude, humiliating, and unfair to the 300+ students of our own, plus 15 guests from New Trier, on Friday, March 9th, for the summit. The Latinx committee, Ms. Vizcarra and Profe Alejandra from Northwestern, have been planning this since the beginning of the school year. The school has chosen this date a year in advance. The teachers were not allowed to tell students Ms. Clinton was coming on Friday. We would like an apology and assurance that the school will not prioritize anyone else before their own students. This is our school and we are your students. The Latinx population is growing in this school and Evanston. We are no longer invisible. Please don't treat us like we are. And also, I would like to say that it was very last minute, not only unfair to our students, but also to our safety staff. They were very understaffed and so were the custodians that worked very late hours. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you. So we don't respond to public comment, but we certainly appreciate your comments. Thank you so much. All right, we have, next on the agenda are FOIAs. Dr. Davis?
We have 2 FOIAs from Bookwalter and 1 FOIA from Rhodes, and the response is in your packet.
Yes, they are. Thank you. Board committee reports. I don't know if we had any board committees. Jonathan?
On that, no, I don't have a report, but I'm just wondering if we could hear sometime about the discipline committee this year. It should have met, I would think, 2 or 3 times already this year, and I don't think we've had a report. It'd be nice to get a report.
I'll check on it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I'll check on it. Dr. Campbell and I will check on it. Okay. We are at the student board report. Emma.
Hello, everyone. Even with spring break approaching quickly, ETHS students are still hardworking and dedicated, as demonstrated by the walkout happening on Wednesday. So ETHS students plan to walk out a 3rd period to demonstrate solidarity with the students of Stoneman Douglas High School, mourn the loss of victims of gun violence both inside our community and on a national scale, and demand legislative change to help stop the pervasive issue of gun violence. Students have the option of participating, and those participating will be strongly encouraged to come back to class for the rest of the day once the protest has ended. This walkout is part of a larger national movement, and Student Senate has taken many steps along with the administration to ensure that students get to Lazier Field safely, quickly, and have a morning of meaningful programming. ETHS students Ari Botter, Liana Wallace, Sophia Garcia, and Brooklyn Love all plan to present spoken word pieces about the issue of gun violence. And Student Senate encourages parents and community members to allow this event to focus on ETHS students. So I'll have much more information once the walkout happens, but in the meantime, I'm happy to answer any questions, and that is all I have. I know it is a brief report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Emma. Okay, Dr. Witherspoon.
And that's a lot. So we do appreciate Emma and the organizers. While a walkout is just that, a protest, a work stoppage, the fact that our students would keep us informed of their plans is really notable, and we appreciate it, because our goal is to make sure that, you know, if you're choosing free expression, your freedom of speech, we want, and it's during our school day, we want to protect you. And so we've been able to take a lot of steps towards the safety by being kept informed of the plans. So I'll give a shout out and a thank you to that. My report includes a reminder that our boys basketball team is now in the Elite 8 and is playing in super sectional game tomorrow evening over at Hoffman Estates at the Sears Arena, or Allstate, no, Sears, help me out somebody. Sears Arena.
Sears.
Thank you, everybody. Don't worry, I'll be in the right place. But it's just very exciting, and we congratulate our team for advancing so far into the playoffs to the Elite 8 in the big school division. The winner of tomorrow night's game would advance to the Final Four at the state championship, which will be held this weekend. So fingers crossed. Our English department's writer showcase is going to be this week on March 15th, 16th, and 17th. This is always a great program where student writing is brought to life through, I'll say, dramatization. It can take all sorts of forms, but it's really great. And if you have a chance, I encourage you to get to the Writer's Showcase. I just want to highlight that this is all available on our website, but our Fine Arts Department does have quite a bit going on. There are jazz music events and jazz showcase this week on March 16th and 17th. Our Jazz Band Day with District 65 is going to be on March 19th. Our Soul Ensemble Festival will be March 20th. Our Flute Choir concert will be held on March 21st, and our all a cappella concert will be held on Sunday, April 8th. And that's how fine arts works in the Evanston schools. That's just our music department. We also have our annual Poetry Week coming up, the week of April 2nd through the 6th. And that's always filled with workshops and presenters and open mic, and just a tremendous week. It always goes well, and it's amazing and fun to see how most of our student body, and I mean really most of our student body, becomes immersed in poetry and Poetry Week in one way or another. Some reminders that our seniors who have not yet applied for ETHS scholarships still do have time. They can log into their My ETHS account and return a signed application by tomorrow. Yeah, this is how it works anyway with seniors. You know, they have time. It's not due till 4 o'clock tomorrow. But we do continue to put out reminders, and a lot of students obviously have responded. A reminder, the spring break dates are March 26th through the 30th, and all district offices will be closed, and classes are going to resume on Monday, April 2nd, and that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. All right, we are at action items. The first item is item number 13, approval of days of remembrance of victims of the Holocaust. And I believe Mr. Baum is going to read that for us.
Whereas from 1933 to 1945, 6 million Jews and 5 million clerics, communists, dissidents, Roma, gays and lesbians, disabled people, Poles, Serbs, and Jehovah's Witnesses were murdered in the Holocaust as part of a systematic program of genocide. Whereas the students and staff of Evanston Township High School should always remember the atrocities committed by the Nazis so that such horrors are never repeated. Whereas the ETHS community should continually dedicate itself to the principle of equal justice for all people, remain eternally vigilant against tyrants and hate speech, and recognize that bigotry provides a breeding ground for tyranny to flourish. Therefore, we, the District 202 School Board, proclaim that in memory of the victims of the Holocaust, and in the hope that we will always strive to overcome prejudice and inhumanity through vigilance, education, and resistance, proclaim that April 16th through April 20th, 2018 be hereby designated as Holocaust Remembrance Days at Evanston Township High School.
Thank you. Can I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next is approval of Women in History Month resolution, and I believe Pat Munsell is going to read that for us.
The National Women's History Project theme for 2018 is Nevertheless She Persisted, honoring women who fight all forms of discrimination against women. The 2018 National Women's History theme presents the opportunity to honor women who have shaped America's history and its future through their tireless commitment to ending discrimination against women and girls. The theme embodies women working together with strength, tenacity, and courage to overcome obstacles and achieve joyful accomplishments. Throughout this year, we honor outstanding women for their unrelenting and inspirational persistence, and for understanding that by fighting all forms of discrimination against women and girls, they have shaped America's history and our future. Their lives demonstrate the power of voice, of persistent action, and of believing that meaningful and lasting change is possible in our democratic society. Through this theme, we celebrate women fighting not only against sexism, but also against the many intersecting forms of discrimination faced by American women, including discrimination based on race and ethnicity, class, disability, sexual orientation, veteran status, and many other categories. From spearheading legislation against segregation to leading the reproductive justice movement, women are dismantling the structural, cultural, and legal forms of discrimination that for too long have plagued American women. During Women's History Month, we recognize the ongoing persistence of our mothers, grandmothers, aunts, sisters, neighbors, and friends. We hope you will join us in celebrating all women this month and throughout the year. The President of the United States has proclaimed March 2018 as Women's History Month to celebrate with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities that honor the history, accomplishments, and contribution of American women. Therefore, we, the District 202 School Board, do hereby proclaim the month of March 2018 as Women's History Month at Evanston Township High School.
Motion for approval?
Move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Now, approval of, the next item is approval of the 2018-19 IHSA membership dues.
I just have a question. It says we don't have to pay dues this year in this letter. Am I? But I guess we still.
There's an invoice.
I just, it says for the 2018-19 school term, IHSA membership will not require payment of membership dues or state series entrance fees.
Yes, it does.
Per action. I mean, I think.
It says your school may renew membership.
I think we're still supposed to sign off, just to.
I'll move approval of our zero dues.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like a wonderful thing. I'm not.
I think it's not, we don't pay dues, but we have to renew membership.
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
I mean, normally we do pay dues. Am I right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, there is a due structure.
Well, so this is nice. Doesn't happen often.
It doesn't happen often. Let's quick approve it.
I will second Jonathan's motion to not pay money.
I know it's not paying money, but let's do a roll call anyway.
Oh, for sure.
Yes.
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 Yes. All right. Approval of international travel for 2018-19. Motion, please.
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item is approval of textbook adoption deletion proposals that we just heard about.
Move approval.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes. Next item is approval of resolution declaring the intention to issue $6 million working cash fund bonds and directing that notice of such intention to be published in the matter provided by the law.
So moved.
Second.
Great. And then as discussion, I'd like Mary Rodino to just share a slide and talk quickly about what this means.
Right.
Even though it's only the beginning of a process, it is an important process. This won't take long.
I'll be really brief. I just wanted to point out just a couple of things for you. Typically, the district does go out every 2 years or so for a debt issuance, and that's what funds our capital projects. So I put a couple of tables in the packet. I believe I put them in the packet.
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that by issuing $6 million in bonds for the next 2 years of projects, we are still well under what's called the DSEB, or debt service extension base, and so that's the limitation on how much debt any district in Cook County can have. And so the first chart shows where we are now without any debt for this coming spring, later in the spring. And then the second chart, which I can call up if you'd like me to, shows where we'll be still within that extension base, even with the $6 million of bond issuance. We do work very closely with our bond advisor as well as our legal counsel on any debt issuance to make sure that we're well within those parameters. And as you know, in an aging building, it takes sometimes almost every dollar that we can get. And so I just wanted to make sure that you knew that we're aware of those limitations, and not only do we issue debt that falls within those parameters, we always go out. I didn't want to give you 8 different charts of numbers, but our current projections with this just excerpt of this presentation, we've gone out to 2024 so that we know how much debt can be issued, what our internal finances could support. Sometimes we do small transfers from the Operations and Maintenance Fund. Sometimes we fund some projects from the Operations and Maintenance Fund just to kind of make it all work. So we have gone out with projections to 2024 just to make sure that we're not doing everything we want to do now and then we're stuck in 2 years or 4 years with no room in that capacity. So that's all I wanted to point out, just in case you had questions.
Thank you, Mary. Very good.
Thank you, Mary. Very clear.
Move approval. Did we do that already?
Yeah,
Second?
Yeah, we
We
already,
moved and
yes.
seconded, we just haven't voted yet.
Yes,
No.
roll call, please.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Yes, thank you. Next item is approval of capital improvement program revisions.
So moved?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes. Next item is approval of 2018 asbestos abatement removal project.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Next item is approval of science or the Chem Phys lab renovations.
Move approval?
Second?
Roll call, please.
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next item is approval of entrance 3 renovations.
God, yes.
Move approval.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Oh, yes.
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 Overdue.
Yes. Okay, next is the consent agenda, which consists of approval of minutes from February 26, 2018 closed session minutes, February 26, 2018 regular meeting minutes, treasurer's report from January 2018, approval of bills, personnel agenda, which includes release, resolution, and reappointments, appointments to staff, the support staff, change in status, stipend, leave of absence, certified support staff and maternity, resignation by safety, retirement, safety, release of coach, other suspension support staff, and an addendum. Do I have to read all
I
these?
circled the ones to say.
Okay. So the addendum consists of, there's a change in status, stipends, and leave of absence, and a release. Thank you. Can we have a motion, please?
Move approval.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 Yes. Okay, next item is old and new business. Is there any old or new business? And we are at closing of the board. We have to have a motion to close, right? Can we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
It's 8:50.
Still
All in
doesn't beat your
favor?
record, Gretchen?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned, 8:50.
Thank you.
Woo-hoo.
Not even close.
You did it less than